We're live. So, Sonia, we are back on a Friday, and I know we've each had a kind of a busy week, and so we're just going to do a short and sweet today. Next week in the group, we're going to be talking a lot about where our journey of growth starts, because when I look back at all the different phases my life has gone through, it all started with realizing that I was unaware about something. And so we're each going to share a little bit about a story from our own life about what we were unaware of. And Sonia, we were talking before we went live here too about how being unaware does serve a purpose in keeping us protected and safe until we're ready to be aware. Do you want to just say a couple words about that before we share stories?
Yeah, for sure. I think that this is something that I was doing in my life, and definitely with some of the women I've worked with, that there was actually a protective mechanism going on because the trauma that was going on in their lives was too much, was so much. It was as if they needed to anesthetize themselves from the situation until later on they were able to start to take on whatever needed to be taken on. I don't believe, even if it may feel uncomfortable in your body or feel as if it's an impossible situation, I actually do believe that you become aware at exactly the right time when you have the skill set, maybe when you meet the right people, or you've just got enough self within you, or strength, or tools around you. It could be as simple as having enough money and a passport, kind of physical things in your life as well. And so there's no surprise necessarily or shame to be associated with that. Our brains, our minds have such an ability to protect us that we can be kept in a situation like that. And that is absolutely normal given whatever it was you were dealing with.
Yeah, very well said. And I also realize in my own life that pain and discomfort, when I was just had it up to here with pain and discomfort and repeating things happening, that was a catalyst to my own awareness. Awesome. So I'm going to share a story about myself and my unawareness and how it played a journey in my life. And I was completely unaware of how much of the problem in the toxic relationships I was in was due to my own behavior. And here's what I say, because we spend so much time like pointing the finger and blaming other people. And I really think when we do that, we're not pointing the finger at the one person who can actually solve the problem. So let me give a little bit more reason about why I say that. So when I was 15, I was raised in an extremely conservative religious group that really had a lot of messages about you have to do things a very certain strict way. And if you don't do that, you're bad, you're wrong. Women were not allowed to have a leadership role. Women were not valued in any way, shape, or form. And you had to conform to these certain guidelines. Otherwise, there really was severe consequences to step outside of that. My family left when I was 15, and I was completely unaware, as was the rest of my family, about how much damage had been done there. So when I rolled into my marriage, my 17-year marriage, I came into that marriage with all these ideas about I can't speak, my opinion doesn't matter, I'm not worthy to have an opinion. I came into that, and my partner came into that with, his own things he grew up with, and we just made this perfect storm. But I was totally unaware of the role that I was playing in that. And when I went through divorce, that was when I decided that the catalyst for me was saying, I've got to do something better for my kids. And then I began to see pieces, but I still, even at that point, was unaware about how much those early years of my life were controlling my life still, how much the hurt and damage was. And really the power to healing was becoming aware of that. And we're going to do the whole next couple weeks, we're going to talk about this journey from unawareness to awareness to growth to action. But that's what I wanted to share today. So Sonyan, what for you is a story in your life around this piece of unawareness?
I think that I know that the way I was brought up, I was unaware for a start that it was not quite the same as everybody else's. The levels of strictness, the levels of abuse in my home, which I thought were completely normal. And when I did find out was probably when I went to school early, and I started to have friends, and I'd say something and they'd look at me and go, no, your dad did what? And I learned that, I think, was when I first realized shame. And it wasn't shame because my dad had done it. It was shame because, it was as if it was my fault that had happened. And that somehow, and then the shame of confessing it and the fear, if they talk, I'm going to get into trouble. The school will find out. I will. And I learned as a strategy of hiding a lot of things. And, those are some of the things that I brought into my marriage. My moment when I went through a divorce, I was literally in my car and I dropped the children off at school. And I was shaking so much I had to pull to the side of the road. And I then realized the thing that you just said, that, I could have pointed 1,000 fingers at him, and I actually, wouldn't have been too wrong to do that but the fingers at me, I got it. I actually got it when I was able to look at the angry words that were being said, and instead of just rejecting them completely, like, where is there any truth in what has just come out of his mouth? And when I actually looked at it, some of it, not all of it, but some of it was true. There were behaviors that I was doing unconsciously because that was what I had been brought up to do. That was what I thought was normal. I thought that responding in anger to a scenario was actually okay because that's what I knew, for instance. And then there was this moment of realizing, oh my gosh. And it almost felt like a burden at first until I realized these things I can heal, these things I can change. And so that's when I began. And then, I knew immediately, and I think you're going to agree with me, I did not even think of doing this by myself. If I'd have had a spiritual director, I'd have been straight to my spiritual director. I lived away from my home, my family, and I think in a way that was a good thing because it forced me to go out and get what turned out to be the best help for me, which was conscious uncoupling. I actually hired somebody to partner with me through this, who, could give me everything, but also was able to say, yeah, hold on, which friends won't do, will they, Vicki?
No, and friends who haven't experienced this emotional, verbal abuse and the trauma that comes from it don't even really know how to
Mm,
help.
mm.
Or they think
And
they're being helpful, but they just don't get it.
and then when you do become aware, it's as if there's a release. I don't know about you, but did you become ill when you realized? It's as if your body woke up. But
Gosh, I remember one week like staying in bed almost the entire week, and my sister coming and laying beside me and just just yeah.
it's like a
um
physical crisis, right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
and I had no, it was in, there's a lot of neuroscience that, nothing, no image, nothing that has come into your sensory system is actually delete. It's there, it's stored, and we store trauma
And
in our body.
that's exactly where I work with women on
Yeah.
finding and releasing that trauma, and I'm sure that's a piece of the work
Mm.
too,
And
but I think that
so that when you become aware, then suddenly you notice, wow, I've got these symptoms. Wow, I've got this chronic headache that's actually so normal that I think everybody has a headache, but we don't. And so that was an awareness that I actually started to get in touch with my body. And in a way, at the beginning, that was a little bit uncomfortable. And then is when you need people around you to go, oh, it's not so great, I know, but hold on, keep going. This is good. Because our instincts are, when we experience discomfort or pain, is, move away from it. But this was one of those, we've got to go through it and get to the other side of it. So yeah, that was actually a very, very real. And there are statistics that were shown that if going through a divorce can be so traumatic, it can trigger some very serious challenges. I went to my gynecologist soon after I found out, and it was just, I had the appointment already, and she actually said to me, I'm going to be watching you because you're a sensitive person. You're going to come back to me with the lump somewhere. And she was right.
yeah, that's what I was going to say, and it can have my sister went through cancer, and I really truly believe that some of the result of that was all of the toxicity that we lived through in our childhood that had stayed kind of bottled up in there. Um, and I've seen that for other people where, like you said, a chronic headache or something, and then when you begin to deal with things and become unaware, it does seem like it can kind of escalate. And then as we really focus on that healing, and that's why it is so important to have someone along with you on the journey that understands. And you know what, I did the same, Sonia. If I had known at that point in time that there were coaches to help through this, because I think the coaches that I've worked with have moved me forward more rapidly than any of the other things I did. But I did, counseling, I did therapy, I did EMDR, and I really feel like all of those things have a place. But having someone who really understands the journey and can be one of my clients described it as having a backbone. When I didn't have a backbone, you were my backbone.
I can totally relate to that. And you've just reminded me. I actually just put it up on my site because it moved me so much. I had a letter from a client, and she wrote this and just put it up. She actually wrote, "You saved my life." And when I'm not going to go into the details because that wouldn't be appropriate, but I had not realized. And so that's the power of it.
And that's what,
that's the power of coaching. Seriously, you know, if it can take you from an edge, from, off the ledge. Maybe I'm overstating it, but wow, it was humbling to receive something like that. But I am so glad she took up, because I don't know. Who knows?
yeah.
Who knows?
And that's why you and I are here doing this work.
I hope so. Yeah, that's absolutely why I do it, because you just, and it's not always those kinds of, even moving someone from a little bit of this to this there, it makes a difference, because we just don't know. And we just, what that shift is going to generate, what it's going to open up, and we don't know. And to have someone with you, spiritual director, anybody, coaches, who's going to walk with you and also challenge you when these awarenesses come. There's often a tendency to fall a little bit. Oh no, oh my, I've been doing this for so long, how could I have been so dumb? Is everybody else this dumb? Yeah. And then you get someone to actually, come on, how can you know what you did not know? How can you? And this is part of this, because it's abusive, but it's about what's happening to women. Like we do the whole general thing about going on in America, but women have been abused for so long. And there's an energy to that as well, and we don't know how to deal with these situations. And sometimes it's not even, there's such a big, but there's no shame in that. That's people trying to control us and make us do what they want or believe what they want, and using manipulative tactics. But no. And then
and only until we take responsibility for ourselves will that change.
Only. And we are not, by the way, that comment about that we got earlier, I was not responsible for the lump that developed in my body. I'm not going to say that. I was responsible for the helping of the healing of it, but it's not your fault that things like this happened. You don't bring those things upon yourself. The universe isn't trying to punish you in any way. It's just that it can happen. And one thing I want to stress out, and I'm sure you do as well, get checks, because the stresses that are in your body, if you've been living in an abusive situation for a very long time, they can come into our bodies as well. And it's not your fault.
I also want to say that taking responsibility doesn't mean diminishing the other person's bad behavior or action either. It just means that you're, one, no longer willing to accept and put yourself in the pathway of bad behavior, and that you're going to let the responsibility for their actions fall squarely on their shoulders.
Absolutely.
So no way diminishes or makes okay anything that somebody does. It just means that you're empowering yourself. You're putting the key to your own happiness in your pocket and being able to make changes accordingly.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's about you being able to be empowered enough to say, that's fine. If you're going to make those choices, this is what I'm going to do. That's okay. And now I'm going to be, you can't make me, you can't upset me enough so that I'm going to raise my voice. If that's something you've decided is what you don't want to do, I know where this goes. It doesn't go well. But at the same time, when you do all of these things, remember you're learning. No one's taught you how to argue well.
And that's why it's important to have a coach, because you can go back the next week and say,
oh, the number of scripts I go through with them, before they go into a mediation or a court thing, the number of scripts we actually work on. And it's not just the words, it's the tone. And yeah, of course you're shaking in your boots when you do these things for the first time.
Yeah.
You're still going to do it because you've practiced it, because you're not alone with these kinds of situations. I don't know whether I'll ever love confrontations all of my life, but for the rest of my life, but I'm okay to deal with them. As an example, I know what I can, I will and will not stand for, tolerate. And these are my no deals. This is a deal breaker situation for me. All of those things come when you start to have awareness of who you want to be in the world, how you want the world to respond to you, how you want to live. What is the message that I want to send to my children? That, what kind of role model do I want to be for them? And this is what I want to pass on, because you've said this to me, and I love it about you, that the stand is, no, this does not pass to the next generation.
Yeah, that's adamant. And I think everything that I do, when I really boil it down, is women have experienced so much suffering at the hand of social conditioning, at the hand of religious rhetoric, at the hand of our own selves. And it's just time to end. And even I think on a greater perspective, when we see the great unrest unfolding in America right now, it's time for a lot of cycles to end. And in the greater perspective in America, in the United States, it can feel like saying, well, I don't know how to participate in ending those cycles. Well, you can participate in ending those cycles by ending the toxic ones that are happening in your own life. And by doing that, letting it have a ripple effect. There's so much more that we won't get into on a US
absolutely
situation.
I mean, we could go on about it forever, but this whole master slave archetype, this whole idea that you are somehow not equal to somebody else, this is what every person can look at deeply, and it makes change. And again, abuse, you are as valuable as anybody on this planet just because you breathe. So being abused, you didn't bring it on yourself. It's not like you've got victim placed it all over you and like, you can hit me because I can. It's not that. Remember, that's part of them.
You're a whole resourceful person, as you are with the ability to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And you're whoever's the perpetrator of all of these things, they've got their own work to do. Just you get on with your part, because whole, heal, that's what we're all here for, eh?
Perfect place to end. For being here today, Sonya. Have a great weekend.
Absolute joy, my dear friend Vicki.